He was just a pretty face with zero talent. But I built him into a superstar. I pulled the strings, covered his scandals, and got him the award that changed his life. And the moment he held that trophy, he accused me on live television of coercion, theft, and murder. The world turned on me. I died in disgrace. But when I opened my eyes, I was back at the audition where it all began. This time I won't choose the pretty face. I'll destroy him. And build someone who deserves it. 5 years ago, if you asked anyone in the entertainment industry who molded the nation's golden boy from scratch, they'd say my name without hesitation. My name is Avery Blake, former top-tier talent manager of Polaris Media Group. I wasn't just good, I was feared, envied, and copied. The woman who could take nobodies and turn them into stars. That's exactly what I did with Jackson Reed. When I first met Jackson at a casting audition, he was nothing but a pretty face with awkward body language and a voice that shook on every line. The other judges chuckled behind their clipboards. "He's too handsome for this gig," one of the casting heads whispered. "He should model or debut in a boy band. What's he doing here?" Even my colleagues tried to steer me away from him. "Don't waste your time, Avery. He'll drag you down. No depth, no acting chops, just cheekbones and abs." But I saw something else. Not talent, no. But hunger. Jackson had this desperate, silent plea in his eyes. One that said, "Please, someone believe in me." And so I did. What followed was 3 years of obsessive, merciless training. I crafted his public image, silenced scandals before they exploded, and called in every favor I was owed. I fought tooth and nail to get him casting calls. I paid for his lessons when he slacked off. I stayed up reviewing audition tapes while he partied because relaxation fuels inspiration, as he liked to put it. And in the end, Jackson Reed won the Golden Apex Award for Best Actor. He stood on that stage in a black tuxedo I chose for him, framed under the spotlight I gave him. The audience sobbed. The applause thundered. Then he smiled and stabbed me in the back. "I'd like to thank my fans," he began tearfully, "and my late mother who I couldn't save because I was trapped in a contract with a manager who controlled every cent I made, who forced me to attend private dinners and act agreeable to get roles." I watched from the green room as his words burned through the air like acid. "Her death is on me, but it's also on her." He looked straight into the camera. And I knew he meant me. That night social media exploded. Hashtag Avery the Devil. Hashtag Justice for Jackson. Hashtag Murder by Greed. My inbox flooded with messages. Most of them saying the same thing. "You should kill yourself. You were jealous of his youth and beauty. He was a swan. You were the toad that dared dream." No one wanted to hear the truth. That Jackson's mother wasn't sick. She was addicted to gambling. She used fake hospital bills to extort money from him. I warned him over and over again, even confronted her once and forced her to leave town. But Jackson never forgave me for that. He thought I was cruel, that I tore apart his family. No, he never wanted the truth. He wanted someone to blame. By the next morning I was nothing. My contract was terminated. My name erased from press releases. My apartment door vandalized. My friends stopped answering. My parents received death threats. So I did what the world seemed to want. I locked the bathroom door, turned on the tap, and slid into the tub. I closed my eyes, feeling the cold water rise around me like a quiet grave. Then I opened them. And I was no longer in that bathtub. I was in the audition room again, 3 years ago. The smell of cheap cologne, the scrape of folding chairs, the murmured voices of hopefuls all returning with frightening clarity. I was back at the moment it all began. And this time I wasn't going to make the same mistake. "Ms. Blake," said Zoe, my assistant, still young and chatty in this version of reality. "This next guy, he's drop-dead gorgeous. Like, I don't care if he can't act level hot." She nudged me playfully. "Right up your alley." The door opened. There he was, Jackson Reed. A few years younger, still cocky, with his signature smirk already forming as he walked in. He stood tall, 6 feet 2 inches maybe, with sharp features, styled hair, and a jawline sculpted by the gods. Whispers fluttered around the room like moths to a flame. "He's too good-looking to be serious," someone muttered. Zoe leaned in. "He could just survive on his looks." I said nothing. I just watched. He launched into his scene, a clumsy monologue from King Lear of all things, and tripped over half the lines. His posture was stiff. His emotion, flat as a board. But he had confidence, strutting like he was already the main lead in a blockbuster. In my past life I had told him, "If you want to be an actor, I'll make you one." This time I held up the fail sign. Gasps rose from the panel. Even Jackson blinked, caught off guard. I can try another monologue maybe?" "No need," I said coolly. Zoe gawked. "Wait, Avery. Aren't you the queen of pretty boys? He's literally what you're known for." "I've changed," I replied. "He's not worth my time." Jackson's face turned red, his hands curling into fists. Mocking laughter followed him as he stormed out of the room, slamming the door on his way out. Next up was Caleb Knox. Nervous. Average height. Clean-cut face with soft brown eyes. Nothing flashy. No gasps or whispers. He stumbled into the room, nodded quickly and began his monologue. It wasn't good. But he was trying. Really trying. I could see it in the way his hands trembled yet stayed at his sides. The way he paused to feel the emotions of the scene. His lines were shaky but his eyes held a storm. The other judges shook their heads. But I held up the pass sign. Zoe looked stunned. That guy. He barely remembered his lines. "I'll work with him." In my past life, Caleb Knox didn't even make it through the first round. He had signed with a micro-agency, played extras for years. But I remembered what happened at the Silver Iris Film Festival. He'd been nominated for Best Actor. The movie flopped due to lack of funding, but Caleb was unforgettable. This time I would make sure the world saw it too. When I stepped outside after the auditions, someone blocked my path. Jackson. His eyes were wide, cheeks flushed with desperation. "Please, Avery. I'll listen this time. Whatever you want." I didn't even stop walking. "Get lost," I said. "As far away as you can." That same afternoon the trending news read, "Polaris Media passes on rising star Jackson Reed." What's Avery Blake thinking? My boss wasn't pleased. He called me into his office. "Are you insane?" he demanded, scrolling through viral posts. "You passed up on a man like that and signed some nobody with shaky knees?" "Watch your tone," I said coolly. "Caleb Knox will outshine every name in this building within 3 years." He laughed. "I'll believe it when I see it." "Fine. I'll stake my contract on it. If I'm wrong, fire me." That shut him up. When I returned to the hallway, Caleb was waiting, hands in his pockets, eyes low. "I'm sorry if I caused trouble," he said softly. "If you want to cancel." I clapped him gently on the shoulder. "I signed you because I believe in you." That night I rewrote his schedule from scratch. Daily vocal warm-ups. Emotional training. Facial expression drills. Posture lessons. Diet. Sleep cycle optimization. Branding sessions. He didn't resist once. He just nodded. Even sent me a video of him practicing his expressions in front of a mirror. "You don't get tired?" asked one day. "Not when I know someone's finally giving me a chance." And for the first time since I woke up in this second life, I smiled. This time I wouldn't bet on beauty. I would bet on persistence. And this time I wouldn't be the one who lost everything. It's strange how quickly the industry moves. One minute you're a genius. The next they call you crazy. I'd been in the business long enough to hear the whispers echo through the Polaris hallways. Avery Blake passed on Jackson Reed? She must be losing her edge. She's known for managing pretty faces. That Knox guy? He looks like a background actor. And yet I didn't waver. Because this time I wasn't here to build a golden boy. I was here to build a legacy. Day 1 of training. Caleb Knox showed up at 6:45 a.m. 15 minutes early. His backpack looked like it had been through a war zone. His sneakers were worn at the toes, and there was a nervous energy radiating off him. Still he stood straight, shoulders square, eyes focused. "You're early," I said as I opened the rehearsal room. "You said 7 sharp." I didn't want to risk traffic. I nodded. "Strip your ego. You're starting at 0. "Yes, ma'am." He said it like he meant it. The first thing I did was install a floor-length mirror in his dorm room. "Expression training," I said. "Half an hour every morning and night. You'll record and send proof. I don't want to see the same face twice." He didn't even flinch. Next came body control, enunciation, emotional pacing and psychological mapping. It was a full system, one I'd originally developed for Jackson but that he rarely followed through. In fact, I still remembered what Jackson once said when I handed him a recording of his own flatline delivery. "Avery, do you even look at my face? I am the expression. Fans don't care if I cry or not. They just want to look at me." But Caleb never argued. He listened, took notes, and repeated every scene a dozen times if I asked. By week 2, I had him enrolled in posture and movement classes. His walk, originally too tight and hunched, started loosening. His shoulders broadened with training. His gaze grew steadier. There was nothing flashy about him, no sparkly veneer. But he was consistent. And that was rarer than charm. One afternoon, as we reviewed a monologue scene, Caleb struggled to summon the right emotion for a grieving character. "Imagine you just lost the person who saw your worth when no one else did," I said softly. He paused. His jaw tightened. And then his eyes watered, not forced, not theatrical. "Ew." "Again," I said. He did it again better. That night I received his usual video. Him in front of the mirror cycling through 12 different expressions. I hit pause halfway through and leaned back in my chair. Something about his sincerity unnerved me. It reminded me of a boy I had met years ago. On the streets near campus. A kid practicing lines in front of a shop window, using the reflection as his mirror. I never got his name. But he had that same determined look in his eye. The online noise didn't stop. Hashtag Avery failed. Hashtag missed the star. Hashtag Knox not. One gossip site even ran the headline. "From gold to garbage. Has Avery Blake lost her touch?" I clicked on it. Not because I cared, but because I wanted to remember how little this industry understood growth. Let them laugh now. About 2 months in, I landed Caleb a role. It was small, a supporting character in a low-budget crime drama. The part had only 20 lines. Barely more than a glorified extra. But Caleb looked at the script like it was Shakespeare. "This is the most I've ever been given," he said quietly. "I won't waste it." The next morning I found him already at the rehearsal room, running lines and practicing blocking. "You've got it memorized already?" I asked. "Almost. I've been working through the emotional pacing too. His motivation is clear, but I think I can add a layer of grief." I blinked. Who says that for a 20-line role? Jackson sure didn't. I remembered his first real part. It was a 4th male lead in a medical drama. The role had a beautiful death scene, a tearful confession, and enough drama to turn heads. But he scoffed at it. "This character isn't tragic enough. He's not even the lead. I'm too handsome to die in episode 3. He refused to do it. I had to beg the director for a different part. I'd even promised an endorsement deal on the side just to keep Jackson in the show. And now I was watching Caleb Knox pour his soul into a part with less dialogue than a product jingle. In contrast, Jackson Reed was dominating headlines again. His new manager, Brielle Sharp, had signed him with Orion Studios, Polaris's biggest competitor. Their PR team posted daily updates. Jackson on set, Jackson at a charity dinner, Jackson waking up shirtless with perfect bedhead. It was artificial. Polished to death. But the fans ate it up. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon while Caleb was rehearsing his role for the 3rd time that day, I got a call from my boss. "You're trending," he grunted. "Am I ever not?" He sighed. Jackson just posted a cryptic caption. "Some people don't know gold even when it glitters in their hands." He tagged Orion and dropped your initials. I didn't respond. He added, "He's trying to bait you. You sure you want to keep betting on this Knox kid?" "Yes." "You really think he's going somewhere?" "I don't think." "I know." Later that week, Caleb's scene aired. It was brief but memorable. The audience didn't even know his name, but the comments flowed in. "Who's that guy?" He felt real. "I don't know his name, but I cried in that scene." Hope to see more of him. Polaris's casting department, who had mocked me weeks ago, began sending me emails. "We'd love to consider Mr. Knox for this project. Any chance Caleb is free next quarter?" And yet, in the same breath, some still questioned me. "You got lucky," someone said during a staff lunch. "The kid's decent, but let's be honest, he doesn't have star quality." "Maybe not yet," I replied. "But he's teachable. Loyal. Relentless. You can build that. Can't build charisma. Can't fix arrogance either. We tried that already, didn't we? That shut them up." One evening, Caleb stayed after training helping clean up the rehearsal space. "You don't have to do that," I said. He shrugged. "I don't mind. This place gave me a shot. Least I can do. I studied him for a long moment. He was ordinary. No fan base. No scandals. No glitter. But he showed up. Every single day. No complaints. No entitlement. And somewhere deep inside I knew. This time I wasn't nurturing a viper. This time I was growing a star. But not everyone was happy with that. As Caleb's name quietly gained traction, a familiar figure returned to Polaris's front lobby. Jackson Reed. He was in sunglasses and a designer coat, surrounded by flashing cameras. His new manager smirked at the press. A little reunion, Brielle said sweetly as I passed. Jackson just wanted to visit some old friends. He locked eyes with me. The same way he had years ago before the betrayal. Except this time there was something else there. Something faintly nervous behind the arrogance. I was stupid before, he said quietly when he caught me alone in the corridor. I know that now. I said nothing. I'll listen this time, Avery. Really. I'll do whatever it takes. I looked him up and down. Same perfect face. Same empty promises. No, I said flatly. His smile faltered. You don't want to see me succeed? I don't want to waste my time. And I walked away. That night Caleb knocked on my door. He was holding a small bouquet. I just wanted to thank you, he said, for seeing something in me when no one else did. I took the flowers, unexpectedly touched. You earned this, I said. And we're just getting started. By the third month of training, Caleb Knox had transformed. He still wasn't a head-turner the moment he walked into a room, not in the way the industry had been trained to crave. But he carried himself differently now. Taller. Steadier. His eyes, once darting and unsure, had found focus. His movements held intention. When he spoke a line you felt it. Every scene we practiced was treated like a final take. Again, I'd say. And again he'd deliver it. Modulating pitch, shifting posture, playing with silence. Never defensive. Never stubborn. One afternoon I caught him practicing alone in the mirror room, headphones in, his reflection mimicking the expression of a grieving brother. I stood quietly behind the door and watched as he wiped away a tear, reset, and did it again. 10 times in a row. Most actors couldn't manage it once without sounding forced. When he caught me watching he stiffened. Sorry, I didn't hear you come in. You're doing well, I said simply. He grinned shyly. You think so? You still suck, I added. But you suck less every day. That made him laugh, and for the first time I saw a spark. Not just discipline. Not just gratitude. Fire. The next week, Caleb was cast in a supporting role for a new web series. It was a crime thriller, and he played a delivery guy who unknowingly witnessed the killer fleeing the scene. It wasn't a glamorous part, just 4 scenes and 18 lines, but it was his first chance on a professional set. You're being paid to exist, I told him in our prep session. But if you want people to remember you, you have to make those 18 lines unforgettable. He nodded, serious as ever. I want to be the best thing in that scene, even if I'm the smallest part. And that was the difference between him and someone like Jackson Reed. I remembered the first time I landed Jackson a part. It had been a 4th male lead in a family drama. A sweet, slow-paced role as the younger brother of the main character. Jackson had stared at the script like it was a personal insult. This guy's boring, he complained. No love story, no big speech, no tragic death? I'm not wasting my face on background roles. You don't get to choose your first breakout, I told him. You earn it. He didn't listen. He never did. On the day of filming, Caleb showed up 2 hours early, despite his call time being noon. He wore the simplest costume, gray hoodie, jeans, sneakers. He didn't draw attention to himself. Just sat quietly in the corner going over lines and watching the crew work. He even helped a lighting tech adjust a broken reflector between takes. New kid, one of the senior actors asked me on set. I nodded. He's polite, the actor said. Rare thing these days. By the time Caleb's scene wrapped, the director patted his shoulder and said, You've got timing. Not bad at all. Later, I found him alone in the hallway, practically glowing. I didn't mess up, he whispered like it was a secret. No, I said. You didn't. The next day an article popped up on my feed. Jackson Reed shines at Orion Studios' new drama launch. He stood on the red carpet in a velvet tuxedo, flashing a smile perfected by countless media coaches. The headline praised his mature transformation and natural charisma. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then tossed the tablet aside. I knew what was behind that tuxedo. The tantrums. The lateness. The disrespect. The way he used to mock co-stars behind their backs. But the world didn't care. To them he was a phoenix. To me he was a parasite. The contrast between Jackson and Caleb became clearer with every passing week. Caleb stayed humble. He asked for feedback constantly. He greeted every crew member on set. He thanked the coffee cart staff by name. He didn't see himself as a rising star. He saw himself as a student. Always learning. And for the first time in my career, I didn't have to play puppeteer. I just had to guide. One afternoon I arranged for Caleb to audition for a bigger role, a third male lead in an upcoming action film. It wasn't a huge part, but it required an emotional monologue during a confrontation with the protagonist. We prepared hard. 4 days I drilled him on pacing, delivery, breath control. But when he walked into the casting room and the camera started rolling, he froze. His voice cracked halfway through the line. Then again. He tried to restart but his breathing was off. The emotion was gone. Panic set in. The director politely said, "Thank you, we've seen enough." We walked out in silence. Caleb slumped against the hallway wall, hands gripping his hair. "I blew it," he murmured. "I ruined everything." "No," I said gently. "You had a bad day. You don't get to quit because of one bad take." I didn't even get halfway through. "Then you'll practice twice as hard tomorrow." He looked at me, eyes red. "You're not disappointed?" I stared at him. "Do you think I've never failed before?" He shook his head, swallowing hard. "I just don't want to let you down." "You won't," I said. "Not unless you stop showing up." Just then a voice interrupted us. Well, if it isn't Polaris's princess grooming her little underdog." I turned. Anna Vale stood across the hall, flanked by 2 Orion staffers. Her red lipstick was flawless. Her sharp smile venomous. "The new manager of Jackson Reed." "What a sweet little pep talk," she said. "Too bad the role already went to someone who can handle pressure." She didn't say the name. He didn't have to. A moment later Jackson emerged from the casting room. His posture perfect. His smile arrogant as ever. But when he saw me his expression shifted. He walked over slowly, stopping just short of where Caleb and I stood. "I heard your boy stumbled," he said, tone mock sympathetic. "It's hard being the underdog, huh?" Caleb said nothing. I stepped between them. "You here to gloat or still trying to impress me?" His eyes narrowed. "This time I'll listen," he said quietly. "If you sign me back, I'll do whatever you say. No more shortcuts. No more attitude." He looked sincere. But so did he when he stood on that award stage and stabbed me with a speech. I didn't flinch. "I've already got someone worth my time," I said. And with that I turned my back on him. The next morning Jackson posted a photo of himself holding the script for the action film. Shirtless, of course, with the caption, "Some people don't know a diamond even when it's in their hands." It went viral in hours. His fans flooded my inbox with messages. "You're the dumbest manager alive. You should have never let Jackson go. Knox who? Oh." But what none of them noticed was this. The hashtag Caleb Knox also began trending. A clip from his 18-line delivery role had quietly made its way to a popular acting blog. The headline, "Breakout Potential? Watch this actor do more in 40 seconds than some leads do in 2 hours." The comments were curious, intrigued, supportive. And by evening he had gained 12,000 new followers. I found Caleb in the training room that night. He was practicing that same emotional monologue again, this time hitting every line with heartbreaking sincerity. He looked up when he saw me. "Do it again," I said. He nodded, reset, and delivered it flawlessly. Success in this industry isn't a straight line. It's a brutal, twisting climb where the most dangerous thing isn't failure. It's visibility. The moment Caleb Knox started drawing attention, I knew the piece was over. The morning after Caleb's viral clip hit 500,000 views, our office received 2 retraction calls. The first from a brand that had previously offered Caleb a deodorant commercial. "We're going with someone more familiar. Jackson Reed just became available." The second was for a side role in a medical drama. "Sorry, last-minute casting change. We've decided to go with someone who already brings an audience." They didn't even pretend. Jackson wasn't just watching from the sidelines, he was blocking every step forward. He's afraid, I told Caleb in our next meeting. You're rising. He's slipping. Fear makes people dangerous. Caleb's brows furrowed. So what do we do? I slid a pamphlet across the table. Rising Spotlight. A competitive reality show where promising actors battled in live performance rounds for a coveted studio contract and industry exposure. This isn't just a TV show, I told him. It's a war zone with cameras. You win this and no one will see you as a nobody again. He stared at the pamphlet for a long moment, then nodded. I'll do it. The moment we walked onto the set of Rising Spotlight, I saw her. Anna Vale. Red pantsuit. Perfectly coiled bun. That same smug glint in her eye. And right behind her, Jackson Reed, all smugness and bone structure, draped over a chair like a model in a cologne ad. The other contestants whispered in awe. Is that really Jackson Reed? I thought he didn't need shows like this. He's so gorgeous in person. Anna caught my gaze and offered a slow clap. You brought the background extra to a lead audition, she said with a smirk. Admirable. Funny, I replied. You brought a statue to an acting competition. She smiled wider. Oh, but mine moves now. He's gotten better. You'll see. The show had 2 special additions to the judging panel this season. Mr. Leong and Ms. Guo, 2 legends in their own right. I had introduced Jackson to them in my first life. Back then he had been 15 minutes late and played with his phone through the meeting. They scolded him for 2 straight hours. He never forgave them. And now they were back, sharper and more respected than ever. The producers, as expected, placed Anna and me side by side in the observation lounge, right in front of 2 high-resolution cameras designed to catch every eye roll and smirk. The first challenge began. Each contestant had to perform a short dramatic monologue with no props, no costume and no support. Raw performance only. Caleb's name was drawn to go first. He stepped into the spotlight. The prompt: a man grieving at his wife's grave. The stage was silent. Then Caleb began. His shoulders hunched with invisible weight. His voice trembled, not from nerves but grief. When he dropped to his knees mid-sentence, it wasn't for effect. It was earned. Every word landed like a slow echo in a funeral hall. When he whispered, "Why did you leave me when I finally learned how to stay?" Even the camera crew held their breath. When he walked off stage, the room stayed silent for a beat longer than necessary. Mr. Leong murmured, "That boy has depth." Anna scoffed quietly. Then it was Jackson's turn. His prompt: a detective interrogating a murder suspect. He swaggered into the spotlight, back straight, hair artfully messy, jawline angled precisely to the left, his good side. From the moment he opened his mouth, it was clear. He was playing a detective, not being one. His voice barked. His movements were big, showy. He circled an imaginary suspect, pausing often to flex his expression into a dramatic scowl, then angling toward the camera for full effect. Anna clapped. "Look at that screen presence." I didn't respond. Because while Jackson's performance wasn't technically bad, it was hollow. Beautiful but empty. When the judges gave feedback, Mr. Leong was the first to speak. "Jackson, you have a commanding presence," he said politely. "But I found myself focusing more on your movements than your delivery. Acting isn't about angles, it's about truth." Jackson blinked. Ms. Guo added, "In contrast, Caleb's portrayal felt intimate. He invited us in. That's the difference between performance and storytelling." Jackson's jaw clenched. Anna turned crimson beside me. Then Jackson said the one thing I had been waiting for. "With all due respect," he began, "maybe the judging panel is outdated. Young audiences want charisma. Maybe you're out of touch." The room went dead silent. Mr. Liang's face didn't move. Charisma fades. Substance doesn't. The moment the round ended, Anna dragged Jackson backstage. 2 days later, the footage leaked. Not just his performance, but the after-show confrontation caught on a crew member's phone. "You don't understand modern acting. I'm the reason this show is trending. Why are we pretending these nobodies can act?" Within hours, it was everywhere. Hashtag Jackson Reed exposed. Hashtag entitled not talented. Hashtag veteran disrespect. His fans, once rabidly defensive, were now split. I still love him, but he was out of line. He thinks he's better than everyone just because he's hot. That other guy, Caleb? He was way better. Anna's team tried damage control. They released a statement blaming editing manipulation and claimed Jackson was deeply remorseful. But it was too late. I had already done my part behind the scenes. One of my interns at Polaris had a cousin on the editing team. Another was running a fan analysis account with 80K followers. We made sure the raw clips trended. We made sure the backlash didn't die too fast. If they wanted a war, I'd give them a war. Meanwhile, Caleb's performance quietly earned him a growing online fan base. People weren't obsessed with his looks. They were fascinated by his sincerity. I watched Caleb's monologue 5 times. It wrecked me. This guy's the real deal. Can't wait to see more. Finally, someone who's not just a pretty face. Polaris received 3 new role offers for him within 48 hours. None of them huge but all respectable. More importantly, producers were curious. And curiosity is currency in this business. One afternoon I found Caleb sitting alone backstage before the next group performance. He was curled into himself, staring at the floor. Nervous? I asked. He nodded. It's okay to be nervous, I said. But never let anyone mistake it for weakness. He looked up. I just keep thinking about last week. Everyone's watching now. One wrong move. You're not Jackson, I said. You don't crumble under weight. You carry it. He smiled faintly. Thanks for not giving up on me. I shrugged. I don't give up on investments that yield results. He laughed. That's your version of a compliment? You'll learn to take it. The next group challenge was deliberately engineered to be explosive. The producers placed Jackson and Caleb in the same performance group. Jackson, of course, was given the lead role, an undercover cop. Caleb was cast as a hostage. 1 line. 30 seconds of screen time. Anna met me backstage with a smirk. Sorry, Rachel, she said. But with Ethan leading, your boy's just a prop. I didn't flinch. Let her think that. The scene played out before the judges. Jackson entered with swagger and guns blazing, literally and metaphorically. His delivery was confident, his presence unmistakable. But it was Caleb, bleeding and tied to a chair in the background, who stole the scene. He didn't blink. He didn't break character. His breathing matched the rhythm of fear. His trembling fingers told a deeper story than Jackson's entire monologue. At the end, the judges fell silent again. Then Mr. Leong leaned forward. There was only one performance that made me feel something today, he said. All heads turned. Caleb Knox. The entire room shifted. Anna's face twisted in disbelief. Jackson opened his mouth to argue, but the producer raised his hand. We're done here. That night Caleb trended online. Not for drama. Not for gossip. For talent. And Jackson? He trended too. For being exactly what he always had been. A face without a future. The morning after the group challenge aired, the internet was ablaze. Not with praise for Jackson Reed, but with disbelief at how a silent hostage outacted the scene's star. Clips of Caleb Knox bleeding quietly in the background, his eyes filled with terror and determination, flooded social media. Even veteran directors began to comment anonymously on acting forums. That Knox kid is raw and real. Finally, an actor who feels instead of performs. The hashtags spoke for themselves. Hashtag Jackson Who. Hashtag Caleb Knox stole who. Hashtag Hostage Masterclass. I didn't have to do much. But I did. Just enough. A few anonymous posts here. A few leaked rehearsal clips there. A quiet word to an influencer who ran a popular entertainment commentary page. And just like that, the shine on Jackson's crown began to dull. 3 days later, the storm hit. The entertainment site Daily Pulse broke the headline. Ethan, Jackson Reed, lashes out at veteran judge off camera. You don't know what acting is. Followed by. Staff say star refuses to wear costumes, demands makeup changes mid-shoot. And the worst. Lead actress in Hearts Under Fire quits, cites toxic set culture. All eyes on Jackson Reed. Suddenly, the boy wonder was no longer a media darling. He was trouble. At Polaris, the air around my office changed. Producers who had once ignored my emails began scheduling meetings. Writers asked if Caleb was free for script readings. Casting directors, those same ones who had once asked, who is he? Now called to check his availability for fall dramas. Meanwhile, Caleb stayed grounded. Every day he trained. Every evening he ran lines or visited studios just to observe. He thanked every assistant director, makeup artist, and lighting technician he worked with. I made sure he spoke with extras too. Their stories, I told him, are often better than the scripts. He listened. They remembered. Then it happened. We lost our biggest project. It was a wartime drama. A prestige production, the kind of role that could push Caleb into A-list territory. We'd been working on the contract for weeks. He was perfect for the part. But then, without warning, the offer was pulled. Instead, Jackson Reed was announced as the male lead. I nearly threw my phone across the room. It made no sense. He was radioactive. Plus, Star Entertainment, I muttered. They're cleaning his mess again. It got worse. The very next morning, a headline dropped like a grenade. Upcoming star Caleb Knox accused of abandoning pregnant girlfriend in college. The article included an alleged testimony from a woman named Lauren Kim who claimed Caleb had left her when she was 2 months pregnant, and vanished. Attached was an old photo of Caleb and a girl who vaguely resembled the woman making the claim. The internet erupted. Our partners began calling immediately. We'll have to cancel the campaign. This could affect our brand image. We'll call again once things settle. I met with the boss that afternoon. He leaned back in his chair, fingers pressed to his temples. Rachel, he said slowly, you said you'd take full responsibility. That this kid was clean. I did a full background check. There was nothing. Well, now there's something. Fix it. Caleb burst into my office shortly after. I swear I didn't. Sit, I said. He did. I know, I added. His head snapped up. I knew about Lauren. I knew you dated her. I knew she transferred schools before the end of sophomore year. His eyes widened. But I know you tried to reach out. I also know she cut off contact. I saw the texts. He sagged in relief. So why now? Why is she saying all this now? I stared at the monitor in front of me. Because someone paid her to. It had to work. First, I called a PI I used to work with. The same man who once helped me locate a blackmailer who tried to ruin one of my rising stars. Within hours, he had traced the IP address from Lauren's email submission to an internet cafe in downtown Los Angeles. I paid the cafe manager double the going rate to keep watch. 3 days later he called. She's here. I arrived in a long coat and scarf, blending into the late evening rush. She was sitting at a station furiously typing, new posts, fresh accusations. I sat beside her and said calmly, you know the penalty for slander is up to 10 years, right? She froze. Her hands hovered above the keyboard. Her eyes darted sideways to glance at me. Who are you? You know exactly who I am. She stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. I blocked her exit with my arm and whispered, Room 7. Back hallway. 5 minutes. Or the police get all of this. Room 7 was small, windowless. I stood by the door as she entered, pale and shaking. I'll go to jail, she said. Please. I have a kid now. Then tell the truth. I wasn't pregnant back then. I lied. Someone offered money. They said if I made it believable enough, I'd get a second payment after the story took off. Who? She hesitated. Lauren. Who paid you? She looked down. Joanna Wu. I stiffened. CEO of Star Entertainment. aka Jackson's current puppet master. I recorded her confession, got a written statement, and left her with a warning. You post a public retraction and you disappear. If I see your face again, you won't be scared of prison, you'll be scared of me. She nodded furiously. By midnight, her retraction post was live. I want to apologize to Caleb Knox and his team. The accusations were false. I was approached by an agent from Star Entertainment and offered compensation to fabricate a scandal. The comments were mixed. Some were relieved. Others said it was too late. Why would she lie unless someone told her to? Star Entertainment again? They're trying too hard. Poor Caleb. First they steal his role. Now this. The damage had been done. But so had the first cut in Star Entertainment's glossy image. That night I called Caleb into my office. He stood at the doorway, stiff, uncertain. You were right, I said quietly. They're scared of you. His face was pale. So what now? I handed him a new script. What's this? Your next role. He opened the packet and read silently. His fingers trembled. This is lead, I confirmed. Low budget. But good writing. Good director. And they want someone who can act. Not someone who takes his shirt off mid-dialogue. He exhaled deeply. I don't know what I'd do if you hadn't believed in me. I looked at him. Really looked. Not the posture. Not the voice training. Not the rehearsed lines. Just him. Caleb Knox. The boy who started with nothing but hunger and humility, and now had the eyes of the industry on him. You'd have kept going, I said finally. Because that's who you are. The war wasn't over. But the tide was turning. And Ethan, Jackson Reed, was starting to drown in a spotlight that was no longer his. A retraction clears a name. But it doesn't erase the stain. Despite Lauren Kim's public confession and the clear link to Star Entertainment's manipulation, the damage to Caleb Knox's reputation lingered. Quiet doubts. Hesitant endorsements. Soft rejections that said more than they appeared to. And I, Rachel Lane, talent manager, strategist, former star maker turned vengeance architect, was done playing defense. If they wanted war, I'd give them one. My first move? Dig into my past. You see, in my last life I spent years cleaning up after Jackson Reed. I buried nightclub brawls. Silenced waitresses he flirted with and discarded. Erased party photos that would have ended most careers overnight. I had backups of it all. Copies encrypted and hidden in drives labeled audit files, and client documentation. Now it was time to bring them back into the light. I started small. A low-quality clip of Jackson in a private lounge, shirt half open, pouring champagne over a crying fan while laughing. You'll thank me for this tomorrow. Posted anonymously. Then a grainy voice memo of him bragging to another actor. I don't even need to try. As long as I smile and flex my jawline, the audience melts. Another clip. Another leak. They spread like wildfire. The press picked it up first. Shocking videos emerge. Is Jackson Reed just a pretty face with a rotten core? Sponsors began pulling out. One endorsement deal, an athletic shoe brand, quietly deleted every photo of him from their socials. A cologne brand replaced him with a footballer. His fan base began to fracture. Star Entertainment scrambled. Their PR team pushed out apology statements, claiming the footage was selectively edited and from years ago. But the fire had already spread. Damage control only works when the public wants to forgive. And people were tired of forgiving Jackson Reed. Their next strategy was textbook desperation. Stage-managed redemption. Jackson was filmed doing charity work with orphan children, planting trees in rural towns and serving soup at a shelter. His hair, once dyed and styled to perfection, was now unkempt in a boy-next-door aesthetic. He smiled into the cameras like a repentant saint. But you could see it in his eyes. Resentment. He hated the pity. The humility. The script. And that's exactly what made it all so easy to destroy. While he performed sainthood, Caleb worked quietly. No paparazzi. No drama. He trained, acted, and showed up. Every set he joined, he thanked the crew before he left. He didn't complain when a trailer lacked heating. He didn't pout when he was asked to reshoot scenes in the rain. Word of mouth started to grow. He's respectful. He shows up early. He actually listens. Industry insiders whispered, he's like the old actors. No fluff, just work. Then came the big opportunity. A war epic, The Silent Valley, backed by 2 major studios and an award-winning director. They wanted authenticity over fame. Depth over glitter. Caleb was invited to audition for the second male lead. I reviewed the script and knew, this was the role that would finally prove everything we'd worked for. There was just one problem. Rumor had it Jackson was being considered for the lead. I arranged a private dinner with the executive producer to discuss Caleb's audition. We met at an upscale restaurant downtown, a place dimly lit and frequented by industry veterans who preferred discretion. As I waited for the producer, sipping tea, I heard a familiar voice from the private room behind me. He's still trying to climb up. Let's just snip him at the knees before he figures out how to run. Jackson. I froze. I leaned slightly to the side, peering through the partition. He sat there, perfect posture, smug grin, across from Joanna Wu, CEO of Star Entertainment. They were laughing. He still doesn't understand how this game works, Joanna said. They all think talent is enough. Rachel's playing the long game again, Jackson muttered. She's always been good at that. But let's see if her toy survives when no one will touch his name. He reached for his glass. One call. One whisper. That role is mine. He won't even get to the screen test. Joanna chuckled. Good. I'm tired of babysitting your PR disasters. Prove you're still worth the cleanup. My hands clenched around the teacup. I stood silently. Then backed away. But the moment my heels tapped the marble floor too loud, Jackson's eyes snapped toward the curtain. He stood. Rachel? He called out, feigning pleasant surprise. I didn't stop. Outside, the night air was cold and crisp. I walked fast. Behind me, the restaurant door slammed open. Rachel, wait. Jackson called. But before he reached me, another voice cut through the dark. Stay away from her. It was Caleb. I hadn't even realized he was nearby. He stepped between us, taller than I remembered, calm and controlled. Jackson scoffed. You think this is over, Knox? This industry doesn't care about heart. Cares about heat. And you've got maybe 6 more weeks before people forget your name. Caleb didn't flinch. She won't forget, he said. And I'd rather burn out with her than rot under you. I stared at him. Jackson rolled his eyes and left. The silence that followed was heavy. Then Caleb turned to me, softening. Are you okay? I nodded slowly. He hesitated. Can I tell you something strange? What? I've met you before. I frowned. It was a long time ago. I was a kid, maybe 10. You stopped on a sidewalk near a bus stop. I was acting out lines in front of a mirror window. A memory flickered. A child. Skinny, shy, mimicking dialogue with his reflection. I blinked. That was you. He nodded. You asked if I wanted to be an actor. I told you I didn't think I was smart enough. And you said. I whispered it with him. Hard work can always surpass talent. He smiled. You gave me my dream before you even knew who I was. I didn't know what to say. But something inside me, cold and dormant for so long, warmed. I had been fighting for so long. For justice. For reputation. For vengeance. But maybe, without realizing it, I had also been building something worth keeping. That night, I uploaded the final video. The one I'd saved. Jackson. Back in his prime. In a private suite filled with other influencers, drinking and laughing as he mocked co-stars and told a friend, I only take charity gigs to get back in good press. I'd never touch those kids otherwise. Gross. The audio was crystal clear. I posted it from an anonymous account with 2 million bot followers, timed the hashtags and lit the match. The internet erupted. He said what? There's no coming back from this. Even Star Entertainment can't save this trash. Within hours, sponsors began releasing statements. Projects dropped him overnight. And this time, unlike before, no one tried to clean it up. Jackson Reed was no longer a scandal. He was a warning. And as his star burned out, Caleb Knox began to rise. Not with noise, but with gravity. It's one thing to watch a star rise. But it's something else entirely to witness one fall, with the world cheering it on. The video had been out less than 24 hours. But Jackson Reed was already finished. The footage of him mocking charity work, slurring through champagne-drenched speeches, and calling his own fans brainwashed cash cows, hit every major platform at once. Within hours, A3 sponsors terminated their contracts. 2 dramas recast his lead roles. A magazine pulled its cover at press time. Star Entertainment tried to stall the bleeding with silence. It didn't work. They had protected Jackson for too long. Audiences had already reached the breaking point, and this time the disgust wasn't fleeting. This was contempt. By contrast, Caleb Knox's life was moving in the opposite direction. His indie film, a gritty social drama titled Below the Surface, had its premiere at the Riverlight Festival. It wasn't the flashiest film on the list, but it didn't need to be. Caleb's performance was raw, haunting, and restrained. There were no melodramatic speeches. Just aching silence, heavy gazes, and slow, internal disintegration. At the end of the screening there was a full minute of stunned silence. Then applause. Real applause. From critics. From actors. From directors who never even gave him a second look before. When the reviews came in, I sat on my balcony, a warm tea in one hand, and read the headlines out loud to myself like a prayer. A new kind of lead man. Knox delivers performance of the year. Move over, pretty boys. Here comes the actor. Knox's devastating simplicity breaks the mold. The boy they once called background noise was now the signal. Meanwhile, Jackson began his redemption tour. Not because he wanted to, but as he had to. First came the livestream apology, an awkward, stuttering mess, where he tried to cry but couldn't summon a single tear. "Hi everyone," he began, eyes darting off camera. I'm really sorry. I was young. I didn't know better. I've changed." The comments scrolled fast. "You're 26. Not 12. Crocodile tears. Where's the Oscar?" He ended the stream early. Next came a forced public apology letter. Clearly not his handwriting. Then photos surfaced of him handing out food at shelters, visiting rehab clinics, attending children's hospitals. But it was all too perfect. Too posed. His shirt always slightly wrinkled. His face always camera-ready. A bottle of mineral water always held just right in the frame. No one believed a word of it. In the middle of this, Star Entertainment made their final move. They partnered with a national charity that supported children with intellectual disabilities. They sent Jackson to a small village school as a volunteer art teacher. They gave him a script. Teach, smile, be humble, livestream daily. He obeyed. What choice did he have? His career depended on it. But even that he botched. One of the live streams caught him whispering off camera, "I swear if one more kid throws paint on my shoes, I'm out." Clipped. Doomed. While Jackson played charity saint for the cameras, Caleb was doing the real thing. Not because it was a PR stunt. Because he wanted to. He was invited to join a campaign by the Rural Futures Program, an initiative to raise funds for schools in the Northern Highlands. He spent 3 weeks traveling with them, visiting small villages, giving acting workshops to students, and listening to the stories of abandoned communities. Not once did he post about it. But I did. And the public noticed the difference. Look at Caleb's face. No camera. No press. Just there. This is what real care looks like. Give this man the roles. All of them. Even my boss, once a doubter, dropped by my office to say, "You picked a gem, Rachel." Didn't see it back then. I see it now. Caleb came back from the campaign sunburnt, exhausted and glowing. He dropped by my office with a soft smile and a stack of local candies wrapped in recycled paper. "For you," he said. "They said to thank you for sending me." "I didn't send you," I said. "You chose to go." He looked down. "I'm glad I did." There was a pause. Then he added, "One of the boys I met, he said he wants to be an actor someday. He asked if he needed to be handsome to do it." "What did you tell him?" "That it helps," Caleb said, then grinned. "But it won't matter if you're empty inside." I laughed. "You're learning." Jackson wasn't. He had stopped posting altogether. His management stopped responding to emails. Even fan accounts had gone quiet. Many rebranded entirely to follow Caleb instead. The industry had turned. They didn't just doubt Jackson. They had replaced him. Then came the call. My assistant walked in, eyes wide. "Rachel. It's them." I took the call in my office. On the other end, the executive producer of Ashes and Empire, one of the most ambitious historical epics of the decade. "We need someone who can hold stillness," he said. "Someone who doesn't overpower the scene but sinks into it." He didn't even say Jackson's name. Only Caleb's. "We want to offer him the lead," the producer said. I didn't hesitate. "He's ready." Later that evening, I sat with Caleb on the rooftop garden outside the agency building. He had just finished a press interview, hair still slightly windswept from the fan they used on set. He looked like someone from a different world now. Not because of the clothes or fame. Because of the stillness. He had found it, the thing Jackson always faked. The thing that can't be taught. "Do you think he'll come back?" Caleb asked quietly, watching the skyline. "Jackson," I said. He nodded. "Maybe," I said. "But not the way he used to." Caleb didn't reply right away. Then, "Do you feel bad?" I looked at him. "No," I said honestly. He had his chance. He ruined it. Another silence. Then Caleb said, "I hope he finds peace though. Even if he doesn't deserve it." That was the difference between them. Between us. I had spent a lifetime fighting to be heard, clawing my way through betrayal, manipulation and mockery. Caleb. He never fought to be seen. He just showed up. And somehow that had made all the difference. The headlines stopped coming. No more scandals. No more desperate live streams. No more carefully staged charity reels. Jackson Reed simply vanished. The agencies dropped him. The fan pages turned blank. Even Star Entertainment removed his name from their internal rosters. Not even a farewell. Just a silent deletion. The boy who had once shined brighter than anyone else in my roster, the boy I built, nurtured, believed in, was now a ghost. A week after Ashes and Empire started filming, I got the call. It was from a precinct on the south side of the city. "We're sorry to trouble you, Ms. Lane. Your name was listed as the emergency contact. We need someone to identify the body." I didn't ask who. I already knew. The morgue was cold. And the body on the steel table didn't look like Jackson at first. His hair was longer now, dyed to a dull yellow. His cheekbones, once razor-sharp from fame and privilege, were hollowed as if hunger and shame had chiseled away what charm once lived there. The tag read "Reed Jackson" in bold print. "He was found with his mother," the coroner said quietly. "Jumped into the river together. Suicide pact, we believe." His mother. Of course. The same woman who had bled him dry with gambling debts. Who had manipulated his emotions, forged hospital bills, and used her son's fame to bankroll her addictions. He had clung to her even when she dragged him into ruin. And now they had sunk together. Two broken pieces of a story that could have gone so differently. I signed the papers. Arranged for cremation. And 2 days later I drove to his hometown. The small village on the outskirts of the coast was quiet, almost surreal. A place frozen in time. I didn't see any fans. No reporters. No onlookers. Just wind. And silence. I scattered his ashes at the cliffside, overlooking the ocean. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just watched the gray dust scatter into the sky and vanish. For a moment I thought I might feel grief. Or guilt. Or regret. But all I felt was finality. Back in the city, Caleb Knox was thriving. Each day on the set of Ashes and Empire brought new praise. The director, a notoriously harsh perfectionist, pulled me aside on day 5. "You found him," he said, half impressed, half incredulous. "Where the hell was this kid hiding?" "He wasn't hiding," I replied. "No one was looking." Caleb handled every scene with quiet intensity. There was no ego in his performance. No pretense. He didn't play the role, he lived it. Bled it. Carried it in his bones. The crew whispered about him constantly. Not because he was loud, but because he was the kind of actor you couldn't look away from. On set, Caleb wasn't just earning respect, he was building loyalty. I noticed how the costume designer smiled at him differently. How the assistant director trusted him with timing. How even the extras greeted him like he was one of them, not above them. Because he never acted like he was anything but lucky to be there. And yet he deserved to be there more than anyone. He didn't need to posture. He didn't need to remind people he'd been nominated or gone viral. He just showed up. He did the work. And the industry? It noticed. Then came awards season. Below the Surface, the indie film that started it all, had become a sleeper hit, sweeping critics' awards and gaining momentum fast. When the nominations for the Orion Screen Honors were released, Caleb's name was right there. Best Lead Actor, Caleb Knox, Below the Surface. I saw it before he did. When I showed him the list, he just blinked. "Is this real?" I nodded. "You earned it." He shook his head, then chuckled softly. I thought people like me only got invited to hold the doors open at those places." "Not anymore," I said. "You're not at the door. You're center stage." The night of the awards, I watched from the front row. Caleb wore a simple black suit. Nothing flashy. No borrowed diamonds or glittery designer tags. But when he walked onto the red carpet, people turned. He wasn't the loudest. He wasn't the most famous. But he was the one everyone was watching. And when his name was called, when the announcer said, "The Orion honor for Best Lead Actor goes to Caleb Knox," the applause nearly shook the ceiling. He walked to the podium holding the glass trophy like it was made of fire. For a moment he just stood there. Then he spoke. "I came into this industry thinking I didn't belong," he said. "I thought I wasn't handsome enough, confident enough, talented enough." He looked into the audience and right at me. But one person saw me. One person believed in me when no one else did. His voice wavered. She taught me to work harder, to dig deeper, and to respect every inch of the ground I stand on. He held up the trophy. This belongs to Rachel Lane. Without her, I wouldn't be here. The crowd erupted. I didn't clap. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too much. 2 weeks later, I moved into my new office. It was right next to the CEO's. Polaris had finally given me the title I once held by reputation alone. Gold medal manager. Before I had been feared. This time I was respected. I stood by the full-length window overlooking the skyline and allowed myself one long breath. I had reached this level once before. Back when I built Jackson Reed. But back then the view felt hollow. Like standing on top of a pile of broken promises and media tricks. No, it felt earned. I kept a photo of Caleb's award speech on my desk. Not the trophy, not the article, just the photo. Him smiling. Looking small and grateful even while holding the world in his hands. It reminded me of the journey. Of the decisions I'd made. And of the single truth I had learned across 2 lifetimes. Pretty faces fade. Substance doesn't. My phone buzzed. New script offers. New casting requests. Invitations to judge competitions. Even a publishing house asking if I'd write a memoir. I smiled. But didn't answer. Not yet. Outside my office, Caleb walked by. He peeked in holding 2 coffee cups. "Morning," he said, lifting one. "Thought you might need this." I took it, our fingers brushing briefly. "Thanks. You ready for the next one?" he asked. "Always." As I sat back watching him disappear down the hallway, I realized something. I had been given a second life. Second chance. And this time I chose right. I never looked back. The end.